Welcome to the Nairobi Health Show, everybody. Today we're going to talk about love, peace, and vegetables with Marcela Benson. Marcela, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, Dave.
I've been excited to have you just because your title is so great. I mean, who could resist not talking about someone who's into love, peace, and vegetables, right?
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, it's been, it's been a journey of love and it's been a journey of peace, and vegetable have been always by the side of my journey.
Well, I want to dive into that journey and hear your backstory. But first, I'll read your bio for those of you listening so you can learn a little bit more about Marcela. Her bio is deep and complex, and there's a lot here. So I won't read the whole thing, Marcela, because you'll tell us a lot about yourself as well. But there's some key things here that are really important. Marcela Benson, MA, is a spiritual nutrition counselor based in Miami Beach, Florida. She's one of the world's leading teachers in the conscious eating movement. She's been instrumental in carrying the knowledge to an international audience, inspiring nutrition revolutions across the globe, something we sorely need. Marcela studied under Gabriel Cousens, MD, at Cousens School of Holistic Wellness, where she graduated with mastery in spiritual nutrition, specializing in spiritual fasting and healing diabetes naturally, another really important need that we have in our society. Marcela holds an MA in vegan and live food nutrition from the University of Integrated Science, California. And then her resume goes on and on and on with credentials and studies at various schools. And Marcela, you are obviously a serious student.
Yes, yes, yes,
I mean,
yes.
how many schools have you attended of various types?
Many. Since I'm 15 years old, I started early on with the School of Yoga and Vedas and mantras. That was my first schooling, and and through that, through the Vedas and through the mantras and through the yoga, I became a vegetarian, and that was really truly my first school. Uh, and then once we go into it, it's so vast. I mean, you never finish learning. I'm a student for life, but the more I learn about different things, the more I can change my mind, the more I can advance, the more I can help. So that's been my journey, studying a lot, and it will keep on coming, the studying, because that's how I feel about life. It's always an adventure, and there's always something new to learn, somewhere new to go.
I agree. And I love that. And it's what I love about this podcast. I feel like I get more out of this podcast than anybody else. I've interviewed over 200 people now, and what an education. It's changed my life. Just the education of the anecdotal education of listening to other people like yourself, all from different points of view, all with different expertise, all gone to different schools of thought. And I find health is super interesting, Marcela, in that sometimes a single tip at the right time can change our life, help us level up, like in a video game. It's time to go to the next level. You have to beat the bad guy at a certain level on this video game, and you beat the Mario enemy, right? What is it, Bowser? Okay, so let's take a family-friendly video game where once you beat Bowser, you go to a higher level. And
Yes.
sometimes that happens, Marcela, from the single right nugget or teaching at the right time, where you're ready to drop an old bad habit and adopt a new habit, and you've leveled up for a long period of time. And so you've probably had that experience many, many times with all this education you've gone through.
Yes, absolutely. And something that I encourage people to learn is about Ayurveda, or even the Taoist nine palace method. Because as you check, for example, the Ayurveda, checking on your constitution, what type of constitution you are, and as you learn about yourself, as you learn about yourself, then life can become clearer to you. You see, so I love Ayurveda because that it has given me a context in which to understand how my body works individually.
Now, you've mentioned a couple of words that I'd like for you to define. Let's go back earlier. You mentioned the Vedas. Would you please tell my audience what the Vedas are?
It's more than a 5,000-year-old sacred scripture, okay, that comes from India. And it's like basically the teaching is like a tree. You have from astrology to nutrition to herbology. So that you have doctors that go to school and do the regular MD, and then they go further and they do an Ayurvedic MD, which takes about 11 years. And you never stop learning because you learn all about the different herbs and different cures about the herbs according to your constitution. So we are simple, but we are complex in many ways. And understanding a little bit about our complexity gives us room to be more forgiving to ourselves and our fall downs and coming back up.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for that definition and explanation. Now, how about Ayurveda? We hear the word a lot, but I'm not sure that everyone, in the West, these are words that we might hear kicked around now and then, but it's not part of most people's ongoing, education or how they were raised. And so how do you define Ayurveda? There's a similar, the same, or what does it mean?
Well, there is many branches to Ayurveda. So you have the Yoga Vedas. Yes. You have the Nutrition Vedas. Yes. So you have the Mantra Vedas, which is coming into vocalizing certain frequencies with certain sacred language that also spiritualizes you and heals you from the tone of your voice. So it is truly, the Vedas is truly an enlightened way of living that you never ceases to surprise you in terms of exercise, in terms of herbalism, in terms of cosmology, and many more. Many more. You can go in deep into many, many, many things with Ayurveda.
Let me grab a book. I got to show you something here. I think you'll be proud of me. Oh, here it is, right here. I'm learning about. Looks like I banged my mic and muted myself. Have you heard of this one?
Sovereign Self. No. Acharna Chuna. Beautiful.
Yeah, this is my first time diving in and trying to learn more of Eastern thought. And I started with the Bhagavad Gita, and then I quickly learned about this Sovereign Self book, and I took a break from the Bhagavad Gita, and I'm reading this one, and it's extremely good. And it's this one doesn't go so much into health. It's more of the philosophy for life, on meditation, on mantras, on more, managing how you think, right? Those types of things. So super interesting. And much of what you're talking about, Marcela, is somewhat belief-based. And of course, many of us have varying beliefs or brought up in different ways of thinking. And so that can make us closed to different ways of thinking. But to my audience, I would say a great way to tackle different belief systems is through a method I just call extraction. Like there's just value in so many different areas. And so we might hear something that we think, that doesn't jive with me right now. But but we carry on reading, and on the next page, there's something that really jives with you that you never would have heard if you stayed in your own box, right?
Yes.
So I find this incredible value. It's one of the reasons I was so excited to have you on my show, Marcela, because of your unique background and here in the United States, where we do an interview like this. I think there's many people listening that won't be familiar with some of your ideas, and yet will find nuggets of wisdom that, like I said earlier, could really make a big difference.
Yes, definitely. I like what you say about extraction, because that's what we're doing all the time, extracting what's in resonance with us, what is really bringing us into certain resonance. And this is very important.
Okay, so that being said, tell us about your background. And were you raised by parents that were very health conscious? Is this something that you developed on your own? Tell us how you came to be so fascinated and invest so much time and energy and money to do all this schooling and get all these degrees and certifications that you've done. Where did it all start and how?
It started, I grew up, my father was a diabetic, type 2. And, so I saw him all my life deteriorating with open wounds and losing an eye and
Oh my gosh.
and having all kinds of diabetes dilated related problems.
And is this in Florida? Are you a Florida native?
No, right now I'm in Florida, but I was born in Argentina.
In Argentina. Okay,
Yes.
so this story with your father, this was in Argentina.
In Argentina, because my father, his parents came from Syria, a little town called Aleppo. Yes.
Oh,
And
I've heard of it.
yes.
Unfortunately.
Yes.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
And yes, and it was a very special place in the world because for many hundreds of years, the Jews and the Muslim lived as brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
So my father got a lot of, the culture was Arabic, really. It was the raw meat and the oils and the spices. But the women in the family did not understand that these oils that they migrated to, there was no longer olive oil. Once you go to Argentina, there is maybe lard, or maybe there is a canola oil, which in most of places, or vegetable oils, you see?
Mm-hmm.
So then you stop making your food with your local ingredients that you have from your town that you came from or your ancestors came from, and you modernized all of your recipes towards what is being offered today in the world. And what's being offered in the world, it's really not healthy.
I won't eat canola oil. I mean, I get where you're coming from. And for those of you who do a quick search on YouTube, for maybe just search like how canola oil is made, for example. And if you've never seen it, it's something that seems so mundane, just an item sitting on a shelf in the grocery store that seems so innocuous, right? But watch any video of how canola oil is made and see if you don't immediately remove it. Like literally come home, take it out of the pantry, put it in the trash.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't understand that oils also go rancid. So I always encourage everybody, go check your oils, smell them. If they smell a little bit like plastic, they're rancid. Throw them out.
Yes, I didn't know that, and we love olive oil and we love avocado oil. And sometimes I'd kind of stock up. We also like to have somewhat of a food supply, Marcela. So my wife and I, we tend to keep about 90 days of food in the house. And it's kind of part of our emergency preparedness if there was a catastrophic event. We live in an earthquake zone, for example. So if there was an earthquake, we have water and about 3 months of food at any given time. And sometimes I would be buying olive oil, and I just buy 2 or 3 large containers. And it was my mother who saw those and said, "Dave, let me teach you about olive oil." And she showed me to not even look for expiration dates, but to look for the manufacture date. And first of all, the good oils have a manufacture date.
That's right.
And that's so that right away you can weed out the lower quality oils. So an interesting point.
Yes, and the good oils, it's very important to understand this, will never, ever come in plastic. Never. Why?
Okay.
Because you see, the oil extracts the estrogen from the plastic, and you're really having something that you think is oil, but you're having the plastic mixed with your oil right into your fat cells. And nowadays, I think the last study that I read, it was like an average human being consumes about a credit card a week of plastic.
Really?
Isn't that something?
That is something, and I would like to see that study. Plastic is something that I'm very interested in and I'm studying because, of course, plastic has also come a long way. And so we have different schools of thought on this. And plastics of the 70s and 80s are not the plastics of today, which I'm not justifying or saying makes them safe. For example, there's some thought that some foods are perfectly fine kept in plastic. But if you take that food in the sun, just the sun ray hitting the plastic is enough to break down and put some of that toxic stuff into your food. And so it's an interesting arena, because plastics are such a big part of our modern disposable consumptive society. So many things come in plastic, so many things are stored in plastic. They're a real convenience in our life. So I'm a little bit, I like what you're saying about buying in glass. I do like that. I mean, all the best oils do come in glass, so I totally am on board with that. But I got to admit, I use plastic cups, right? We have plastic cups that I pour drinks into and drink out of. And I use like Rubbermaid containers. When I do my meal planning, I put those in those plastic containers and put them in the freezer.
Right.
So are you of the school of thought that no plastic ever, or do you think there's exceptions, or where are you at on the plastic debate?
No plastic ever, unless you have an accident and the plastic can help you to put a catheter, to deliver some medicine. But look, you see me, I have
Glass.
water, glass. I prepare my lunch and I put it in glass, and I have a glass lid. Now they have some glass lids with silicone around.
Yeah,
Even
I
the
have
glass
some.
lids,
I
they're
have some.
wonderful. And we should not be using the plastic we're using nowadays, because it's also polluting the world. And I wrote this book, Love, Peace, and Vegetables, to bring back the inspiration of wanting to do something better for yourself and for the world. Because when you are taking care of your health, you're really truly taking care of the world. When you make
Yeah.
sure you understand about plastic and how pernicious they are for yourself and for the environment, then you change it. And
Okay. Now
I'm with you. It's
you,
convenient, but
you will be
how
proud.
far away?
I do mostly drink out of my stainless steel bottle. So just in defense, I'm not. I do avoid plastic disposable bottles, and most of the use of plastic in my house is like what I said with the simple storage of food. Leftovers often go into plastic. I make homemade dog food. I make my whole food dog food for my dog. I make a large batch in the Instant Pot, and then I put it into a bunch of plastic containers and put them in the freezer.
I put it in for my dog. I put it in glass. How about that?
Okay.
We need to understand that also these beans, they're big or small, they're very close to the ground, and the closer you are to the ground, the bigger load of toxicity you're going to get in your body. So these little beautiful
Okay.
beings are going out in the neighborhoods, smelling everything and getting a huge toxic load of things that they don't deserve. Nobody deserves to be toxic.
Okay.
And
Yeah, sure. I like that. That's a great quote from the show. Nobody deserves to be toxic. I like it. Well, okay, we got segued a little bit from your story, though. The story of your father, that must have been obviously heartbreaking. He lost an eye. I mean, I can't imagine. He obviously went through some very serious health challenges, and that had a big effect on you.
yes, because I thought when I started learning, in the beginning, it was like, back in the days, I had no understanding. But as I started studying, I realized that, wow, we have options. And that's what came to me, like, really, we have options from sickness to wellness, and in a way that really can amplify your vibration. You see, so that's we do have options. I thought that, okay, you're diabetic, you are maybe obese, and there is, that's who you are. I never put two and two together back then, but now I
Yep.
realize that, wow, we do have options. We have options for healing.
Okay, so now I'm really intrigued, because we've got a girl from Syria, from an Arabic Jewish background, who's focusing on the Ayurvedic traditions. How did that happen? And from Argentina. So from Syria to Argentina is most of what you teach out of Hindu and Indian culture now?
No,
Is that safe to say? No, okay.
no. My background is in Ayurveda and also Taoist and spiritual, but
Okay.
I like to infuse all my food as medicine. So when I look at something and I'm making something, I make it thinking, okay, for example, I have a phenomenal cake that you will love, which is a fermented almond ricotta with a top of coconut butter and saffron. See?
Ooh,
So
yeah.
how did I come up with that one? It was kind of like, okay, I have my Vata people, which my Vata people are the people who are very thin in neck and they're very creative and they forget about things. And if you don't feed them a lot of cooked food, they're spaced out, So that's a little bit of the Vata. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So then I said, what can I give my Vata that can center them, that they can. So a lot of my food is thinking of that. Like, for example, that one is thought about Vata. Then I have an aromatic water for somebody who is Pitta, which is a shorter muscle fiber. They have a lot of fire. They have a lot of hump for life. Yes. So then, okay, how do you, instead of giving them spicy foods, what do you do to refreshen them? Because they're often hot and sweaty, right? The Pitta, because
Yeah.
they have this amazing creative fire. So then I made this aromatic water that is from fennel and mint. You see, so that's how I weave in the Ayurveda, I weave in the Taoist, I weave in, like, for example, I have herbal lattes, right? And the herbal lattes are made with chaga, which are adaptogenic mushrooms. You're probably very familiar with them.
Yeah. Yeah. And let me, sorry to cut you. Hold that thought you had, because I want to go backwards for just a minute first to the body types. Now, in my health certification, we put it in terms of mesomorph, ectomorph, and endomorph, which sound very similar to what you just said. I wonder if they are the same. Have you heard of this before? Is it just different words for the same explanation? Or is this new to you?
It's new. It's new to me.
It's probably just different ways of describing the same thing, because a mesomorph is the thicker boned. A mesomorph would be better as a power lifter than that you'd never find them running a marathon, right?
Yeah.
And so on. And your endomorph would be the marathon runner, skinnier of build typically, and so on. And there's 3 body types. Is there 3 body types? And of course there's crossover. There's none of this is black and white. It's all common traits or predominant traits, but not 100% traits, right? So is there 3 main body types that you're working within in your coaching and what you're doing?
No, it's many more actually.
Many more. Okay.
They cross over. You can be trilogic. You can have a percentage of each that is very equal.
Okay.
Yeah. And Ayurveda is also the science that, it's not up and down. It's like, how do you reach homeostasis that is always going to find, it's going to find the waves of life, you see? And how do you adjust the waves of life according to age, it's a very, very specific, it's really such a beautiful science of our ancient science that I wish they would teach this in school, because as you learn this ancient science, also you learn about yourself and your humanity and how you came into this world with a specific body type and how can you transform it also.
Yeah, and isn't that interesting? I mean, there's obviously a lot of things we wish could be taught in our school systems. Right now, we're fighting against people who want to stop teaching the most basic things, and our standards are getting dropped, and the U.S. system is just dropping behind like crazy, and it's very sad to watch. And Marcela, I think it's really an uphill fight. I think that the way you're doing it, and the way I'm doing it, and the way my listeners are doing it, is really the only way. We have to, at some point, become a student. No one else is going to give this to us. We've got to become a student for our own family. We've got to study. And this issue, what you've done, I respect so much, because you think outside the box. You went outside of your traditional upbringing to find whatever truth you could. At least that's what it sounds like to me, reading your bio. That you're that extraction thing. You're looking over here and over here. Wherever you can get the information, you're looking for that. You're curious. And then you finally put it all together into a system. Now you've got your book. There's actually a book, Love, Peace, and Vegetables.
Have you seen it?
No, I have not seen it. Let's see it. It's big.
It's big. It's look, it's 444 pages. It's like an encyclopedia.
Okay. So it's not like it's definitely not a novel, right? This is not start at the beginning and read through. This is a resource book.
Yes. It's something you want to have for many, many years, that you can always come back to find inspiration, to find a piece of yourself, because it's an intentional book. It's been done. It has poetry, and it has art, and it has words of wisdom, which is very important. And it has very, very, very smart nutrition.
Now, what is that? This is your, what is that Latin word, magnum opus? Your like life's work. Is that fair to say you've put your life's work into this book?
Yes, it's fair to say. I will never do anything this big again, ever.
Okay.
But it's a little bit of how I am, and that this is my first book by myself. I've written with other authors before, and I've written for two other authors recipes, but this was the creation how Marcela wanted to be inspiring the world. And for me, was through an invitation and through beauty. Non-judgment, invitation, and beauty.
Say that again. Non-judgment, invitation?
Yes. I wanted, my book is an invitation, a non-judgmental invitation that teaches you through beauty and poetry and art, and the intention behind this book. Even I did, this book is all done with sustainable forestry paper, and it was printed in the United States of America.
Cool. That must have been expensive.
Very much so, but it was worth it, because it is not enough that we speak the way we want, that we act accordingly. And yes, it was not, it was difficult, it was more expensive, but I do not regret a bit, because I want to talk and live in a way that reflects what I teach. I couldn't do it any other way. Like I have a glass cup, and I have glass containers, and you see, and I try to, now I'm trying to even buy cotton clothes, and maybe next step will be buying organic clothes, and start, because you see, what you do matters. What you do, what you learn, how you live. We change the markets. I mean, even the organic market, like I am a great advocate of organic or wild food, or even food that the people that grown it are not spraying. You see, because that's how we change. I've been all over the world. Not only I've been all over the world, my family has been all over the world, fleeing from one country to another. Yes. And what happens is that no government in the world is going to create the country that you need to create for yourself.
Yeah, agreed.
So, we must create love and peace in our lifestyle. And this reverberates through all around you. I remember when I came to Miami, there was no vegetarian, maybe one vegetarian really far away, and no vegan places. Now there is vegan, there is organic, there is vegetarian, there is more options. And as we become healthier and ask, go to the vegan place, what oil are you using? Because sometimes they're using canola oil because they don't know. They know how to make food. They don't know the ingredients.
Yeah.
You see, and you upgrade as you upgrade your life with love and not with judgment. You upgrade everybody else's. You don't get upset if they don't have what you need. You should, because that's very important. You don't want to be angry, angry all the time. You really do want to exude, for me, it's all about exuding openness and love. And I think that really does change the world.
Beautiful. Now, is vegan the way you would describe yourself when it comes to nutrition, or would you use a different term or
Yeah.
description?
Yeah. I'm vegan, mostly live food.
Mostly live food. What are your thoughts on cooking?
I have about 20% of my book is cooked foods because I know that a lot of people need or they feel like they're not there yet. And I like cooked foods. I mean, I like cooked food. They're not as powerful as raw foods, but maybe your digestion is not there. You see, because we have to look at what have you been doing in your past, what did your past generations have been doing, and how you are born into this life, and all of this takes into equation of who you are, where you are in terms of digestion, etc., etc.
Yeah, and how do you address the issue of there is some scientific evidence that cooked food is why we are as human beings superior to animals in some sense. That for example, the big apes spend 5 hours a day just chewing and digesting food because raw food is actually harder and takes more energy. So there's this debate that our brain, well, this part isn't the debate, but we know that our brain and our digestion are the two processes in our body that use the most energy, right? And so there is a school of thought that cooked food is better because it's somewhat pre-digested. So when we eat the food, it's already broken down, so we don't have to chew it as much, and it's easier to work in the enzymes, it's easier to process in our digestive system, and that our body gets to work less on digestion and extract all the nutrients. Now, that is a school of thought and somewhat against the whole uncooked food argument. And I just put that to you for, I'm sure I'm not the first person to ever say this, but obviously you would disagree with that premise.
Yes. Well, I would agree if I would think that we're smarter than apes. My
Yeah. But that argument, just to be clear, is a historical argument that that the invention of fire and then the cooking of food is the part that made it so that our digestive system didn't have to work so hard. So more energy goes to the brain, more blood goes to the brain, more oxygen goes to the brain gets bigger, we get smarter. That it's an environmental psychology argument as well as a nutritional argument. So I put it to you not as, I just put it to you as a
Oh, no,
debate
no.
topic,
I
of
think it's
what's your
wonderful.
thoughts?
I think it's wonderful what you're saying. And I say what I said not only just for a laugh, but also to open up the school of thought that how about if we are not more intelligent than our animals? How about if truly eating this way has taken us into a state of the earth, which is toxicity, something that the animals have a very good relationship with earth. You see, we must learn
Yeah,
from them. And, it all depends where you're standing and where you're
yeah,
coming from. So, it's just a thought, that maybe, like human beings learned from the animals what to eat, what not to eat. They watch
okay.
us in the wild, what they would eat, and then they will realize that this is something that they could eat. So there is some of that also. And
Okay, well, that's fair enough. And so now let's take it from the highly hypothetical ancestral point of view into your daily work. So in what you're doing, you are teaching people to shift, and it sounds like as much as possible, to whole uncooked foods. And I imagine that for most people, especially when they're eating the standard American diet, the SAD diet, that a shift to whole uncooked foods might be difficult at first, but it's got to be an unbelievable and massive change in their health. What's it like for your now? Are you a coach? Do you take on clients and train and coach people?
yes, as a spiritual nutrition counselor, because everything that I do, it is highly tied to create clarity on one's body, to be able to be in communion with your higher self or with your soul and with the different parts of that.
Fantastic. And so talk to us about that and the process that maybe give us a successful case study without invading anyone's privacy, of course, just to kind of create a meme, if you will, of maybe a handful of people's success story of what life is like when they come to you. And if they're successful with your program, what it looks like, say, a year later.
Well, most of my students are into, they come in without a purpose, without a life purpose. And most of my students come out with an incredible life purpose. And they're out there in the world doing amazing things that I'm so proud of them, because, it's about living a purposeful life, not only eating healthy for you, but the understanding of how that affects your clarity and your life. Not only just being a vegan, like you have such a thing as a junkie vegan who is going to eat all of the fried food, and this is terrible for you. It's terrible for your brain. And then they say, well, yes, it is an upgrade from fast food and the sad diet, but it's not enough of an upgrade. It just isn't.
Yeah. I know plenty of people who consider themselves vegetarian that all they do is don't eat meat, and then they eat a bunch of junk food and think they're a vegetarian. And that's a kind of a common thing, sadly.
Yes. Believe me, I came to this country when I was 15 years old, but then I came back to live here when I was 18. And I came when the time was all the fat-free stuff, So I was a vegetarian back then, but forget it. I would buy a fat-free whipped cream, zero sodas, zero, and I thought that I was doing something good for myself because the marketing is so pernicious and it has zero wisdom for the health of the people, that you just go into thinking, oh, okay, no sugar, so then I'm going to have a diet soda. And I'm like, how about we find out what this does to me? And if you want to have bubbly, maybe you should have a fermented bubbly drink. If you want to have something that preserves and that connects you back to earth and connects you back to your bacterial and your flora, it's have sauerkraut. How about understanding about how important is to have water? In the book I teach, one of my first chapters starts water. Second chapter, salt, because these are two important things. You need the water. And we need the minerals of the soul to have the electricity that creates the hydroelectricity that creates through our body, because we are electromagnetic beings. You see, now we have a lot of technology between the frequencies and the PEMF machines. And, we have so many things that only take care. In fact, Chinese acupuncture, the acupuncture, acupuncture, it doesn't treat your organ. It treats the meridian lines running through your body when there is congested energy, so the energy can flow and the organ can get healthy. You see, so these are things that are known, and they're practiced, for example, in the Orient, in the hospitals, in India is practiced as an Ayurveda, the understanding of accumulation of energy. So our food, our water, our salt, all of this also is energy. Our bodies, although you are there and I am here, okay, we can see ourselves through this invisible communication through matter, but this matter appears here and there through the invisible field.
Right.
See? So when you start awakening into the invisible field of nature, nature starts speaking with you, and then you become a true human being, really, where your birthright is happiness and peace.
Oh, another great quote, Marcela. I love that. Your birthright is happiness and peace.
Yes.
I love it. Fantastic.
Yes.
I've kept you a little longer than I said I would, but one last thought, and it's kind of a big thought, so it might be a little unfair, but I'll ask you to do your best and tackle it in the remaining time that we have, something that could take hours. So we'll see how well you can do with this massive last topic, and that is talk to us about meditation and mindfulness.
Yes. Well, this is everything for me. I started meditation when I was 15. And
Okay.
meditation, it's a place, most of the people have such busy minds that just sitting and meditating is too much. But nowadays, there is apps, there is different things that you can bring yourself. I have in my YouTube channel, I have a meditation. And then when you learn this, you are able to disconnect from the net of things, from the artificial net of things, and come back into the natural net of things, which is complete connectivity with the one. In this book, also at the end, I have a very specific way of showing you how to disconnect from the artificial net and connect back into source, into yourself. Because this is very important. There is two different things. You are not that artificial net. You just aren't. You are much more than that. And on this, we all know that we are incredibly in so much oneness and beauty.
Beautiful. And could you give us an example of practice? Is there a certain practice you have in the morning or afternoon? And could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. I wake up and I do my exercise for more than it pains me. And sometimes I fail at it. let's be truthful. There is no perfection here. There is just a work in progress. Yeah.
But generally, you like to exercise first thing in the morning.
Yes, before meditation, because once I'm all fired up, I sit down and I really want to sit down.
Okay.
Because it's like, oh, okay, I'm out of breath. I did my squats, I did my hands, and I did everything. And now I want to sit. And that creates, after workout, it is the best to sit down and meditation because you will get the most out of it. You see? And then I do my prayers every night. I pray until I go to sleep. I pray for the world and I pray for all the wonderful things that there are in this world.
Beautiful. So a lot of prayers sounds like a lot of gratitude. Gratitude is a big part of what you're doing.
Gratitude is huge. Gratitude is huge, In Kabbalah, they teach that you're only a righteous man. A righteous man, it's grateful at least 100 times a day.
Oh, wow.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. That's a lot. For like every little thing you do, you have to say thank you.
Now, let's back up to your meditation practice. So you've done your exercise. Talk to us about your sit or your meditative session. What is that like?
Well, I've learned many types of meditations, but the one that I like the best for me is the feminine style of meditation, which is the Kabbalist style of meditation, which is be comfortable. Because if you're uncomfortable, if you're too comfortable, you're going to fall asleep. If you're uncomfortable, you're not going to be able to meditate. So you have to find a way in which you're comfortable. You can sit, like I can sit full lotus, right? Mm-hmm. But then after a while, because I don't practice it enough, my legs cramped up, you know? So then I'm just, I do full lotus a little bit and then I let go of the full lotus. And yes, I sit up straight, which is important because you want the energy running up and down. But if you cannot sit straight, if your muscles cannot hold you, lie down. Sit in a chair, which is, the zero gravity chairs, and meditate. Find your comfortable space and just concentrate on the breath. And concentrate after the breath in and out in relaxing every part of your body. Wherever you find tension, if you have tension in your eyes, on your jaw, on your tongue, on your neck, just let it go and let it melt, And this is a very easy way to go into meditation. And it's very rewarding because you truly come out much more relaxed and you did it to yourself, for yourself.
Do you use a timer or do you just go by feel?
I go by feel. I use a
Just how?
timer when I'm heading meditations, so I don't take anybody on my own ride. So I put, okay, 20 minutes or 15
Yeah.
minutes.
You use a timer when you need to. Otherwise, it's just more natural.
Yes, when it's just me, I go for it. But then, sometimes you don't have time. Put 5 minutes. 5 minutes is good enough. 7 minutes, 12 minutes, and you can build up to it.
What would be a long meditation for you?
About 2 hours.
Okay. So yeah, that'd be something your average person would have to build up to. It took me literally over a year to go beyond 3 minutes because my mind is just so crazy. It was really, really hard for me to develop a meditation habit. And I think that's common for quite a few people. Unfortunately, for many people, and luckily for me, I guess, I had some good instruction in the very beginning, to not feel like a failure and to not feel like I was supposed to control my thoughts. And I think some people don't know that. So they try meditating, their thoughts get in the way, they think I'm a bad meditator, and they give up. I've actually heard that story quite a bit. And I was lucky to run across some good teachers early that said, no, when you realize that you've gotten in your own head again and you come back to your breath, that's a success. So
Yes.
you don't think I just failed. Darn it, I'm a bad meditator. You think, oh, I came back. Oh, I came back. And you just keep noticing the positive energy of I got thinking about what I had to do later, but I came back to the breath. And you reward yourself for coming back to the breath. That was a long time for me, Marcela. It took some effort and dedication and daily practice, like I said, over a year. And I did have finally breakthroughs. It was funny. I went from 3 minutes to 10 or 20 very fast, very easily. But it was just that first 3 or 5 minutes and the first year that I just had just constant monkey mind. Just really was not comfortable with sitting and felt like I was doing something that I'm busy. I got a business. I got a family. I got to get to work. What am I doing just sitting here? Right? Like all of this stuff was a real challenge. It took some time.
Places to go, things to do. The mind always has that.
and then you finally hit that epiphany that, oh, wait a minute. That feeling of places to go, things to do is the problem. And then you have that huge aha. Oh, okay. That's what I need to let go.
Yes. And as we watch, it's such a blessing to watch our monkey minds, because as we watch that, we come into consciousness into what's our narrative. How are we manifesting our life through this monkey mind? Are we having monkey lives? Not monkeys have very good lives. They don't have monkey minds.
The monkeys probably don't have monkey minds. That's funny. I like that. Never thought of that before.
So we make a story about the monkey having a monkey mind. We make a story about who they are and how they live, instead of, I have my dear friend Ain, that I adore. She always says, once you're pointing a finger out, remember there is 3 more pointing right back at you.
Yeah.
You have a lot of wisdom to learn as soon as you point right back at you.
Right.
And meditation is a place where you can do that, because it's when the mind points you outward and you say, come back in. It's a place of growth. It's a place of development. It's a place to know where you're at. If you don't know where you're at, how are you going to change things?
Another great quote, Marcela. We got a lot of great quotes to pull out of this episode. Thank you so much. Show us the book one more time for anyone that maybe joined late or whatever. Love, Peace, and Vegetables. It's a beautiful book. And this is a real work, a true work of love from Marcela. Her life's work, from many degrees, many schools of thought, much reflection and study. And where do they find it, Marcela?
At Marcela, www.marcela, MARCELA.love, LOVE. That's it.
.love, how nice.
How about that? I was able to get that.
You're able to get .love. That's fantastic.
It was meant to be. It was. I want people to have more love in their lives. Really, more love, more lightness, more laughter. It doesn't matter how much you know and how technical everything can be, and and how many titles you may acquire. You know, love is basic. It's simple. It's always there. It's always inspiring, and it's the true master teacher. And you don't need to go to school for that.
Well, what a great message. And thanks so much for coming and sharing it on my show. Marcela, I'm going to commit. I'm going to get rid of some plastic in my, I don't know about all of it yet, but I'm going to work towards it. I'm going to at least get rid of a lot of the plastic we use to store our leftovers and the dog food. And so I'm going to get some glass containers. You've inspired me to up my game in that arena.
Can I say something? Your food will taste better and it will last longer.
Okay.
Yes, plastic makes the food soggy next day and it just doesn't keep the taste. So you will be surprised and how much of an upgrade it is to buy glass.
Fantastic. Well, I hope others listening also had some epiphanies or some area of their life they're going to upgrade, level up after listening to you, Marcela. Thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, Dave. Thank you for having me.
It's been fantastic. And for those of you listening, this is Dave Sherwin wishing you